My first thought of the Nick Richards to the Phoenix Suns trade yesterday was, wow. It was a monstrous haul, it felt like, for the Charlotte Hornets. I don't care about second-round picks, but I do care about what they're allocated towards. And I was sold on this idea that I would either get off of Jusuf Nurkic and have that salary cap relief, but also get rid of my 3 second-round picks. So it's kind of a trade-off, right? We're giving Jusuf Nurkic to the Charlotte Hornets in exchange for draft capital. It's not really the exchange of goods in that being of one Jusuf Nurkic. Instead, you gave up Josh Okogie, who's an expiring deal, which is good for the Hornets. They won't have to pay him past this year. But you also had to give up 3 second-round picks. I understand they got a second-round pick back for this year. I know people are trying to make that into something that I believe it's not. But I just thought it was a lot. And for a guy like me who has kind of came to the defense of James Jones, where I think he's been actually a pretty good drafter outside of the Jalen Smith, Tyrese Halliburton debacle. And listen, it's a crapshoot of the NBA draft. You can't bat 1,000. But I thought yesterday I was kind of disappointed. Every team seems to be gutting the Phoenix Suns because they know if they wait them out long enough, they'll get everything that they can. And it felt like yesterday was a desperate move. And desperate moves in a company, a friendship, a relationship, a desperate move of any kind never works out particularly well. It never has. It likely never will. But that's kind of what I got from it yesterday. This idea that Nick Richards, and I've been pushing this for months now, is the savior to the Phoenix Suns. I can't subscribe to that. I can't act like that is what the Suns are doing. It just feels like that it's a stretch to call this guy a savior. And I talked about this yesterday on Locked On Phoenix Suns. It felt like Nick Richards was an elevation of the floor, not the ceiling for the Suns team. Anyone that is talking about, and I don't think there's many people out there, but there are some crazy people that think that Nick Richards is a championship winning player and raises the ceiling that far for this team. I just don't take that opinion seriously. Nothing Nick Richards has done has shown you that that's something that he. But also, it also goes to this. Nick Richards is clearly a lot better than what Miles Mason Plumlee and Jusuf Nurkic are. He's laterally better defensively. Doesn't mean he's elite defensively. Just means he's off of the floor of skill level that Jusuf Nurkic and Mason Plumlee are operating on. He's athletic. He's a lob threat. He will get a few easy buckets a game just because of the gravity alone of Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. He alone, and I will continue to stand by this, he alone cannot raise this Phoenix Suns team. It's not. This team will continue to come and go as Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal carry this team. This team is not going to be based off of what role players can do. It's never been the case. It never will be the case. And it just feels like that is some copium to think that that's not a possibility. So I like the Nick Richards addition, and he's going to be a good piece for this team. And according to John Gambadoro, he's going to start for this team in, a couple of games when he gets acclimated to what it's going to look like. But I do ask everyone to temper their expectations a bit, because he was a backup on a really bad Hornets team. Granted, Mark Williams is a good player on the Charlotte Hornets, the center there. We saw the other night how good he can be. But he's a backup on a 8-9 win team for a reason. And I like the addition. I just can't get my arms around this idea that it was some sort of steal or the Suns didn't have to give up much because you gave up the cap flexibility that was Josh Okogie at the end of the year, just letting him go. But you also gave up the 3 second-round picks. There were, people out there who were reporting, which is why you shouldn't believe any reporting outside of Gambo, Bourget, Dwayne Rakin, people that actually have a connection to the team. And, you had people out there like, the Evan Sideries, or you guys know who I'm talking about, tweeting a week ago, talks have intensified over the past week or so when, that person's been tweeting about that for 4 months now. So at some point, I guess you are going to be right. The talks are going to intensify, saying that Yusuf Nurkic was going to be the piece. And then, of course, Gamble had to come out. Just a quick PSA. Stop believing anyone in the Suns community if it's not Gerald, Rankin, Gambo, someone that's actually deeply connected into the roots of what the Suns are doing. Stop getting your hopes up because someone without a profile picture tells you that Jimmy Butler is going to be a Sun, because no one actually knows. So there's my little PSA and help to you guys. Anyways, let's also jump to this part of it. There's a growing idea, and I'm going to jump out of frame for you guys for just a second. Had to grab a piece of my notes because, believe it or not, I actually do prep for this kind of stuff. But here's what I wanted to say. I can't subscribe to this idea that the Phoenix Suns aren't done. At the beginning of the year, we did a board bets for Locked On Phoenix Suns, and my guy Brendan had said to me, over under 1.5 trades that the Suns make this year. And I took under. I thought that they had the ammunition to make what is one more trade. And I think this is it. I don't think Jimmy Butler's coming here anymore. It's not that I don't think Butler couldn't force his way for what the Suns had before, but it was already going to be difficult to allocate the picks that you have to get Jimmy Butler, that being a first-round pick and 3 second-round picks. Now it's a first-round pick and a second-round pick and Bradley Beal. I don't think people understand that you are going to have to convince someone to not only take Bradley Beal's contract, but you have to make it worth their while that you're going to do that. So you have to give them an excessive amount of picks just to get off the Beal deal. Not to mention, you're trying to get Jimmy Butler back. So with the combination of trying to get off the Beal deal and not having the ammunition to even put that off somewhere and then get Jimmy Butler in, I just don't see that happening. I don't live in La La Land. It's why I think some people really like what I do. I'm going to be honest. I give criticism, but that means nothing without praise. I do both. No one's immune to it. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't see another trade getting done. I think this is it. Outside of a second-round pick for Heath over with the Portland Trailblazers. Outside of that, I don't see anything else. No one is taking Bradley Beal for role players. No one's doing that. It's not the case. No one has any interest on helping the Suns out with role players and then having the financial burden of taking on Bradley Beal. That is just not going to happen. That is fanboy logic, guys. The Beal contract is the second worst in the NBA to Zach LaVine, which, whatever, you want to argue what's one, what's two, I would argue that one's two, but it doesn't really matter at the grand scheme of things. So, Nick Richards, a good ad for this team. I think he's more about raising the floor than the ceiling, meaning I think he firmly puts them into the play-in. He is athletically more gifted than Yusuf Nurkic and Mason Plumlee. He has the ability to laterally move defensively and be a lob threat. He's going to get a lot of free open dunks and layups, and he's not exactly an elite center or even a great center, but he's so much better than what they have right now that it is going to just artificially elevate the floor of this team and make them a surefire play-in team. But I don't think he is going to elevate this team to that 6 seed, the 5 seed, the 4 seed, and being in the thick of the playoff race. Good player, but it did feel like the Phoenix Suns gave up a lot. not getting off the financial burden that is Nurkic's contract, but still having to send the second-round picks. Okogie, who played really hard. I think he was a good culture guy. Just sucks to have that guy walk out the door. But at the end of the day, I get the deal, and it's second-round picks, whatever. I just feel like those things could have been allocated a little bit better. And I do think it means the Phoenix Suns are done in the trade market, which means Jimmy Butler likely not coming here. And you're reading the tea leaves, and it also seems like everyone else is starting to feel that way too. It doesn't seem like it is a growing thing that Butler will be here unless, he's got to make it even more difficult than he already has, and I'm not so sure how much more difficult he can make it on the Miami Heat. But either way, Nick Richards overall is a win, and it also just injects some excitement for me to be able to watch the next game and see something new, and maybe it lights a fire under some of these players. So, good. Overall good for the Phoenix Suns making that happen.